Hello and welcome to the Let's Create series. Today we're going to start the Roblox card game. I'm very excited, and so I have Roblox Studio open. If you don't already, go ahead and open Roblox Studio, and then we're going to create a new game. So we'll click New, and Base Plate is just fine. So we'll click Base Plate. We are going to want to publish the game. So if you have this window open, that's good. Otherwise, we can publish it here in a moment. But we need to publish it so that we can create the other places in our game. We're going to at least have two. We need the lobby, and then we need at least one game area so the players can play cards. But the first thing we're going to do is change the color of this base plate. And so I'm going to use something sort of green. And so I'll expand workspace over here on the right, and I'll select base plate. And then after selecting that, we have the properties at the bottom right. And I'm going to change the color here from this gray color to some kind of green. I don't want it to be super bright, but somewhere around here looks great to me. And I'll press OK. Okay, another thing, I don't really want the studs in here, so I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom on surface, and I'm going to change these studs on the top surface to smooth, and that'll get rid of those studs. And I also want to change the material, so I don't really want it to be plastic. I'm thinking maybe I want it to be grass. And now that we added grass, it got darker, so I'm going to change that green again to just be a little lighter. And I'll press OK. So we've changed the base plate. It doesn't look like that normal studded place. We're not using terrain, so we still get the appearance of grass without having to deal with all the terrain. So that's good. And now what we can do is start working on some UI. So to get started on UI, we're going to find the starter GUI over here in our Explorer, and we'll press the plus. And we want to add a screen GUI. And now that we have this screen GUI, this handles all GUI for the player. Now we can press the plus on the screen GUI, and we can start adding frames and buttons and things like that. And so I'm going to add a text button. And that text button is going to show up at the top left, and we want it to pretty much be at the bottom right. So what we're going to do is select this text button in the starter GUI, screen GUI text button that we just added. We're going to select that, and we're going to head down to properties. And now in properties, we can scroll up a ways, and I must have collapsed data, but expand it back out, and we can see it has this position property. So this position is in relation to its parent, and its parent is just the whole screen GUI. So that's fine. What we'll do is change its X. We're going to make it scale pretty much all the way to the right. So X is horizontal and Y is vertical, and 0, 0 is the very top left of your screen. And so scale, a 1 value here, will be 100%. So it would move it off the screen. So if we change this to a 1 and press enter, we can see that it's all the way off the screen. We don't really want that. So let's change it to something like 0.8. And so that'll move it almost to all the way to the right, but definitely further away from the left. And so that's good. And on Y, we'll use the same value on scale. We'll just do 0.8, and that'll move it almost all the way down. But we can see that it's not really in the bottom right corner, and we do want it to be in the bottom right corner. And so we have a couple options here. The first one is to change these scales so that they are all the way to off the screen. So if we do a 1 for X and a 1 for Y, it'll send it all the way to the bottom corner. And then we can use a hard-coded offset like -100, and that'll pull it to the left. And then a thing like -50, and that'll pull it up. And we can see how it'll stay that many pixels off the bottom right. So when we change the viewport, that button will move as well. So that's one way we can do it. The other way is to adjust those scale values so that it kind of stays at the bottom right no matter what. And I like to do that more because then the button size will scale as well. And everything kind of keeps their aspect ratio. So I'm going to get rid of these negative values and leave them at 0. And these ones will change as well. So instead of it being a 1, 0.8 seemed to not be good. So we'll do something like 0.88 and see how that does. And I can see it's almost all the way to the right. So that's good. Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry. I try to keep an eye on... Whoops. Hold on one second. I try to keep an eye on the chat. I'll do the best I can. But here, I'll type because there's a huge delay. Okay, so like I was saying, if we use that 0.88, that leaves about a 12% or a 0.12 from its top left corner to the right of the screen. So that's good. That actually looks okay to me. And so now this Y scale, we don't really want a 1. Okay, I'm monitoring chat. I know it's super delayed. I can slow down. Yeah, I'll slow down. So for the viewers that are here, all I've done so far is started a new project, and then I changed the color of the base plate, and I set its material to plastic. Here, I'll select the base plate, and I'll show you I changed the color. All I did was just pick some green, and then I changed the material to grass, and I scrolled all the way down to the bottom. Make sure you have base plate selected. And then you have this surface here, and on the top surface, it will say studs, and I just changed that to smooth. And that'll get rid of the studs, and that's all we've done so far. Yeah, no problem. I can slow down. But once you get through that, the next thing we did is we went to Starter GUI, and we pressed the plus here. I chose a screen GUI. If you don't see that, you can type it in this screen GUI, or I'm sorry, the search bar up top. So that'll get you your screen GUI. And then all we did from there is simply add a text button. And now we're just changing the position of that text button. So once you have this text button, we'll move it all the way to the right by going to position. And so in position, if we expand X and Y, we'll see scale and offset. And scale and offset, I actually am just getting into explaining those now, so that we should be all caught up here. So scale, everything starts, so 0, 0 starts at the very top left. So that'll put it all the way up here at the top left of your window. Value like 1, 1 in scale, so 100%. 1, 1, a 1 on X is 100% of X, and X is horizontal, so it'll start from the left and it'll go all the way to the right, and it's 100% of the viewport. So to the right, and then a 1 in the Y scale puts it all the way to the bottom. So we have this Y scale of 1 already, and that's why this button looks like it is off the screen. Yep, I see your comment. I'll pause for a second. I know there's a pretty significant delay, so I'll pause for 10 seconds. Why don't you let me know in the chat when you're ready to keep going and where you are. So like if you are just working on the base plate, just let me know and we can go through it. If you have the text button and you need to position it, then that's good as well. Oh, still on the text button. Okay. Have you added the text button to the workspace? Actually, it would be screen GUI. A jailbreak game in the future. So I've honestly never played Jailbreak, but I have seen the game. We could maybe try to do something like that. There's seems to be a lot. Is that the one with like the heroes? I think that's the one with like the heroes and the prisoners or something. I'll have to take a look. I'll take a look and let you know in another video if it's something we could try to tackle. The great thing about the card game, and it's why I kind of wanted to migrate from that battle royale game to this card game, is because um, the big overwhelming task of all the things involved in the game don't exist in the card game. Cards are very easy. Oh, having trouble seeing? Let me, I'll type in here. Oh, Mad City. Gotcha. Okay, that's Mad City. I'm not sure what Jailbreak is. All right, so the card game is nice because it's a simple concept. We're just playing cards. We don't have to worry about too many assets because there's a lot of free card assets out there. And we get to focus a lot on UI, which is very important. That's how you can kind of interact with your gamers. And then scripting, which is very important in every game. So we get to go over a lot of scripting, and that's what I'm most excited about. And I'm going to do my best to explain everything I'm doing in scripting. And actually, I have an example of the game we're making. I've created it on my my personal account, and I can show you that game. I showed you a little bit in that intro video, but it looks like we're caught up. So we're on the position part. It is the resolution. Okay. I'm not sure what to do about that. I don't know how to make the text here bigger. But if there's something you can't see, or if there's something you have a question on, I'll be sure to keep an eye on the chat. There will be a delay in my responses because when I see your question, it takes like 10 or 15 seconds until when I read it and respond until that response gets to the stream. So go ahead and ask your questions. I'll keep an eye on the chat, but we can keep going on the button. So we have this text button. We moved it all the way to the right. We saw that it was off the screen with a value of 1 in X. And so now we've changed it to a 0.88, which is 88% of the screen. And then we have Y set to 1, which is 100%, and that's why it looks like it is off the screen. So we're going to change this Y value to like a 0.8. 0.8% is 80%. And now when we look at this, we can definitely tell that that's way too high, or not down far enough. And so what we'll do instead is change this to something like 0.9 and see what that looks like. And now we can see that put this button down here in the bottom. So I'll highlight this button again, and I'll scroll down to the position, and we can see that scale is 0.88 on the X, and scale is 0.9 on the Y. So that'll get our button positioned. The next thing we're going to want to do is go to size. So size is hard-coded. It is hard-coded in offset, so it's always going to be 200, and it's always going to be 50. 200 wide, 50 tall. The reason that's not good is because if we move this over to mobile, you can click this little, it looks like an iPad and an iPhone at the top right. Once we click this, we'll see that that button is gone. It's still 88% of the width of the phone, but 200 pixels is just too big for a phone. So instead, what we're going to do is change that from offset to scale. So instead of 200, we'll change this to 0, and our button will disappear because it has no width now. But we'll change scale to something like 0.12 would send it the remaining width of the screen. So we don't want to do 0.12. Let me show you. So if we do 0.12, that'll, because its position is 0.88, and that leaves 0.12 until we reach 100%. So instead of 0.12, let's leave some space on the side. So we'll just do 0.1 for the X size. The size X scale. So size X scale, 0.1, offset 0. So that looks good here. Now we need the Y scale. So let's turn that offset into 0 again. So Y offset 0. And now we want Y scale to, we can do something like 0.08. So we can do 0.1 to show you what will happen. Since we have it positioned at 0.9 down the screen, if we do 0.1, it should fill up the remainder of the screen. As we expect, it does. And so instead of that, maybe we only want it to be half of this. So instead of 0.1, let's change the Y scale for size to 0.05, which is half of 0.1. And that'll make our button look pretty good. And now when we head over to that mobile view, we'll see that that button sits here at the bottom right, just where we want it. So the same on mobile and the same on desktop. So that's perfect. So far our UI supports both mobile and desktop. All we have is one button, so it's not too super complex. But the next thing we can do, which you probably noticed, is the text on button is very small on this desktop. But when we change it to the mobile view, that text is enormous. And so how we get around that is if you click this text button from the Explorer and we scroll down, there's some properties here under text. And one of them is text scaled. And so what text scaled does is it ignores this text size and it just fills it according to how much space is given by the button. So if we check this text scaled, we'll see that it got a little bit bigger here on mobile. But if we go back to desktop view, we'll see it's also big. It's not just a small bit of text anymore. So that's really helpful for making your buttons visible and bold on all platforms. So that's something we really want to do. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is change the text. And we'll notice that when the more letters we use in the text, the smaller the font will get because this text is going to be scaled. So when we change button to something like find game, right? Find game has more characters, so the font size will go down. Oh, if it was a little more characters, like find a card game, right? Find a card game. Now it gets smaller because it's going to fit all of that text into the button because text is scaled. Oh, type the scripts in chat. I don't know. The problem with that is, so here's the thing. Let me show you. Hold on, reading. I'm currently making a club hangout game. That's super cool. The problem with pasting the code in chat is you're not going to be able to really learn. You're just going to copy and paste. So let me show you what a script would look like. So I'll just go into server script service. You guys don't have to do this. And I'll show you, I think there's a way I can make this text a lot bigger. Oh, here we go. So I'll make this text a lot bigger. Can you see that okay? Once you see it and it comes through, just reply in the chat if you can read that. Mainly you, Roblox Epic Dino. Let me know if you can read that. And if so, that would be great. But I'll move on and I'll keep an eye on chat to see your response. But back to the button. So we have this text button. We're going to change find a card game. I'm going to change that back to find game. So we have find game. That's awesome. And the next thing we want to do is make some frames, right? So we need a frame that when we click find game, it will open so the user can interact and find a game. Before we do that, it's good to always give your UI elements a name. Oh, okay. I see your response now. You can. I'll go really slow on the script, and I'm going to do my best to explain everything. The goal here is you guys learn what I know Not that I type your code for you, but I teach you how to type your own code. I would really like to teach you how to do all this, and then anything you can think of, you can build in Roblox. So that's the goal. What if we already have a create game from another channel? Yeah, I mean, that sounds good. I have no problem with that. That's awesome. That means you've already been doing this. That's good to know. That's good to hear. But so back to the video or the card game. So we have this text button here, and we want to change its name. So all I did was double clicked it. So you can click it once and then click it again, and you should be able to edit this. And so I'm going to name this button. I always like to name what it is first, because then when we access it in code, if we don't know the full name, we can just type button and it'll filter out and just give us a list of things that are possible options, right? So I put button or label, but then I name it. So I have button, and then I'm going to put find game. And so on every letter of the first word is going to be capitalized. So it's going to be button, find game. And that's a capital B, capital F, capital G, all one word, no spaces. So we have button find game. That's good. And the next thing we need to do is just over screen GUI, we're going to click the plus and we're going to add a frame. And so this frame, we're going to change its name. I'm going to leave the word frame, but this is going to be frame find game. So I'm going to add find game behind the name frame. And then we need to position this in the middle of the screen. So we can do that the same way we did the button using the X and Y scale. And then we're going to change the size to make sure we continue to use X and Y scale, not offset. So once you have a frame there, so you just click the plus next to screen GUI and then click frame. And then I just renamed it to frame find game. So once you have that, make sure it's highlighted in the Explorer. And now we're going to move it from the top left over to the center of the screen. And so we can do that by going to the properties here and scroll down a little. And my position is already expanded because I was working on it with the button. If yours isn't, then go ahead and expand position and expand X and Y. So we're going to see X and Y. Everything is 0, and that's okay. But what we want it to be is, let's just, kind of plan it out with our mouse. So we want this thing to pretty much take up about half of the available width of the screen. So we know the size is going to be about 50%. That leaves us 50% of unused space. So what we can kind of do with that information is say, if we have 50% of frame, then where do we position it to make it center? Well, if you have 25% on each side, right, being the other 50, then we need half of that. So if we take X scale, right, X position X scale and do 0.25, that's going to put this thing 25% of the screen. And now we want its width to be 50% of the screen. So I have position X scale 0.25. I'm going to scroll down a little to size. And this one also has offset. We don't want offset. But we will change size X scale to 0.5, and then I'm going to change that offset to 0. And that'll make this thing exactly 50% of the available screen. Again, the reason why I'm doing this is once we go to mobile, we'll see that it still takes up 50% of the screen, and that's what we want. We want this game to work on mobile and on when people play it on their tablets and when they play it on their computers. We want it to work everywhere. So I'll go back to desktop view. I'll re-highlight this find a game, frame find game, and then we'll work on Y. So the position Y scale, let's see, 50% is probably not big enough. And let me show you what I mean. So if we do 0.25 on position here and like 0.5 on scale, I think it's big enough. Maybe it is big enough. I'm going to check it on mobile. Yeah, you know what? I think it is big enough. So what we'll do is I will kind of go over what I just did. I was just checking to see if that was big enough. I think it will be. So with frame find game, we'll go to position Y and we'll change scale to 0.25. And then on size Y, we'll change it to 0.5, just like the X values. And then we'll get rid of offset. So the offsets on all of these are 0. And this will allow it to grow and shrink as the screen size grows and shrinks. So that'll take care of that. That's our frame find game. And one thing I really like to do is add, they're called module scripts. And I'll explain these scripts a lot more in detail. But I like to have these kind of state managers as module scripts so that it handles its own frame and everything, and you can just reference it in another script and it'll take care of all of the heavy lifting. So that might sound confusing now. I'll show you what I mean here in a second, but for now, we're just going to hover over frame find game and we're going to add a module script. Hi Squeebly, how are you? So now we have a module script here. We're going to change its name to it can be anything really. I'm just going to say frame behavior, I guess. Frame find game behavior. So frame find game behavior. And that's only, it doesn't matter what you name it because they'll have different parents. But once you have a bunch of scripts up here and you're working on a bunch of different scripts, it becomes a nuisance when they're all named the same. Can you sing me a song? Yes. I don't know how I would hear it, but yes, you can sing me a song. As long as there's no bad words. Okay, so we have a module script in here. That's great. Now we can head back to the base plate. And now we can see we have our frame here. And now we need to add some things. So we need to add maybe these 2 panels. So one will be scrollable and it'll maybe show all the available games that other players have created. And then the other panel will be how they can create their own game. So we need to be able to find a game. We need to be able to create a game. And that'll all be in the find game frame or frame find game. So here in frame find game, let's press the plus next to it. And we will add another frame in here. And this will be so we'll have one on the left, one on the right. So we'll have 2 frames in here. So the first one will be the left panel, and so we'll rename it frame find game, but I don't really want it to be the same as its parent. You know what? I know we'll change the parent name to like container, but this one is going to be frame find game because this is actually the frame that'll have all of the games in it. So maybe we'll call it frame game list. How about that? Let's do that. So this will be frame game list. Frame game list. So then we can position this frame game list. So its position is not going to be 0, 0. We want it to have a little bit of padding. And so we could either hard code this with offset, which I don't really like to do, or we can use scale. So position X scale, we'll do 0.1, and that's 10%. And I think that's going to be too big. It is way too big. So we'll do 0.025. I think that's better. And so that's 2.5% of the width. The next thing we'll do is go to position and maybe 0.25, or 0.025, maybe a little more, maybe 0.03. Yeah, that looks okay. So that gives us our position on the scale is X is 0.025 and on the Y is 0.03. And now we need the size. And so the size is basically going to be half minus those padding on the left and right. So the left padding is 0.25. I'm going to say the middle padding is going to be something like 0.05. So that leaves, so if we have 0.25 here, directly from the center, right? The center of the parent frame. Whoops, undo that. The center of the middle frame, there's going to be 0.025 on the other side. So that's a total of 0.05, leaving 0.95. No, hold on. 0.5 is the whole thing, and we need to take off 0.05. So that's 0.45 is going to be the width. So we have size, X, scale on the find game list. Size, X, scale will be 0.45. Nope, that's too big. Let's say we did 0.025 on the left and then 0.025 on the right. Ah, I see. We have an offset. Yep, we got to get rid of those offsets. There we go. And so that is the same on the left and right from the center. So that's good. And the Y scale, we have 0.03 on the top. We're going to have 0.03 on the bottom. And so that comes out to 0.06. 100 minus, 1 minus 0.06 or 100 minus 6 will give you 0.94. So on size, Y, scale, we can change that to 0.94, and we can get rid of that 100 for the hard-coded value, and that'll give us the same size from the bottom to the top. So the padding on the top matches the padding on the bottom, and if we go to mobile, we'll see that it's the same. So we have a nice border around it on mobile and on desktop. So that part's good. The next thing we need is the right frame. And so the right frame will be like a create game. So we'll add a frame to frame find game. We'll add a frame. And then I'm going to change its name. I'll leave frame there, but then we'll say create game. Okay, now we need to position this. And so the position on the Y, the scale can be the same, 0.03, and that'll drop it to the same Y position as the other one. But on the other side, so this is 0.45. So we have 0.45 plus the padding on both sides gives it an even 0.5. But we need to go over 0.025. So it's a lot of points, but here's what it basically is. The X position for scale is 0.525. And that'll give you, from the center, that same padding on the right. So the next one we need is the width, and the width is going to be the same. So the size on this frame, so size X scale, is going to be 0.45 again, but that extra space is because of that 100, so we'll get rid of that 100 offset, and that'll give us the same width frame as the left side. And the last thing here on the size and position of this frame is the size, Y, scale, and offset. So offset's going to be 0 as always, and scale is going to be the same as the other one. And so that was 0.94, and that gives us 2 frames of the same width and height. And then we can make sure that it works on mobile as well, and it does. So we have our find game frame, which we'll have on the left is like the list of games, and on the right is a way to create a game or host a game. So the next thing we need is a way to dismiss this. So we need some kind of X button or a close button or something like that. And so we have a couple options. I mean, we could put it here at the bottom, kind of offset from the bottom of the frame, or it could be at the top right. I know that's pretty common. So for now, I think we'll do top right. So on the container, on the parent, frame find game, let's add an image button. So we have an image button here. This is going to be, I'm still going to keep it as, in the name, I'll start it with button. And so it'll be button close. So that'll be like the close button, right? So button close. And so we need position and size. So the position is going to be pretty much all the way at the end. So we'll do something like 0.98 on X. And on Y, it actually needs to be sort of negative. So I guess in this one case, we can use offset. So we'll use 1 on the X and 0 on the Y. And then the offset can be, this is bad idea. I really don't like doing that. So here's what we'll do. So we'll do 0.98 again. And on Y, the scale, let's do something like minus, like some negative number. So negative, so we'll do like negative 0. I don't know. Let's try 0.3. Yeah, actually that moved up a pretty decent amount. I think we want it to be a little bigger though. So here's what we'll do. So we're going to change 0.98 on the position X scale. 0.98. We're going to change that to 0.95. So that'll move it over and allow it to be a little bigger. And instead of minus 0.03 on the Y scale, let's make it minus 0.05. Let's see what that does. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So this close button, we have position X scale is 0.95, and we have position Y scale is negative 0.05. And so that should move it all the way to the right, but back a little bit, and then up a little bit from its parent. So that's good. Now we need size, and we don't want this 100 by 100 in the offset. We want something like 0.1 maybe. Hold on, 0.05 would just put it to the end. Yeah, I think we need 0.1, and then get rid of that 100. I think that's still too big. Let's do 0.05. I guess, yeah, 0.05 is fine. So size X scale 0.05, offset 0. And then size Y scale, we went up 0.05, so we actually need to go, its height needs to be bigger than that. So otherwise it looks like it's way off the frame. So this is going to be something like, let's see, 0.075. Is that big enough? Let's see. Yeah, it sure is. So button close. Maybe we make it a little bigger, so it looks like maybe maybe a square. So 0.075. I don't know. Let's do something like I don't know. 0.1. Is that too big? No, 0.1 is fine. So we'll do 0.1. So that gives us the X, the Y on position, and the X, the Y on scale. So now what we need to, on size. So now what we need to do is put an image here, right? Because right now it's just this default image. So we can use the toolbox for now, and maybe we'll create our own assets later. But for now, let's go ahead and open the toolbox, and you can do that by pressing View up top, and then finding Toolbox and selecting it. We don't want a model, we just want an image. And let's do something, let's search for close, I guess is fine. And we do want some kind of red X. I guess this one's fine. I'll just use this one. So you can right click an image and copy asset ID. And then back in your button close, you can go all the way down to the image section and just change the image to the asset ID, and Roblox will do the rest. So when you press enter, it takes care of the rest for you. And so now we have like an X button. So now we have an X button, but it doesn't do anything. So we need this X button to be able to close the whole frame. And so that's what I like these module scripts for. So I have a module script in here. I'm going to open that. And now what we're going to do is capture some of these UI elements that we need. And so the first one is pretty easy. It's just going to be the container frame, and that's this module script's parent. And so what we'll say is local container frame equals script.parent. So that one's easy enough. And so this is, I'm going to put a comment above it, and this is frame find game. So that's that one. We also want access to that close button. So we'll say local close button equals, and this will be container frame dot button close. So that'll give us the close button. And now we want this module script to be able to handle things like we can say module script close the frame or open the frame or things like that. So we need methods for that. And so we can do that by defining functions and properties and things like that this module script can operate on. So the first thing we'll do is we'll say module dot open, and then that's going to equal a function, and we can just press enter. So module.open equals function with parentheses, and then when you press enter, it should automatically give you this end. And maybe we'll change open to something like open frame or show frame. Let's change it to show frame, because then the other one can be hide frame. So show frame. So module.showFrame equals function, and then it gives you an end. Beneath that end, we're going to do the same thing but hide frame. So module.hideFrame, and that'll equal function, open and close parentheses, and then press enter, and you should get the end. So this one is going to change the visibility of the container to show. And then our hide frame is going to do the opposite. It's going to change the visibility of the container to hide. And so we actually already have a reference to the container. So what we can do is say container frame dot visible equals true. And then we can do basically the same thing here in the hide frame. We can say container frame dot visible equals false. And so that's good, easy enough there. And now we need this button close to handle when a mouse clicks it. I really want to put this in another script just so I can show you the benefit of doing all this in a module script, but that'll come. So we'll just keep doing what we're doing now. But the idea, we'll see when we get there. But for now, let's just keep going on what we're doing. So we have a way for the module to show the container frame. We have a way for the module to hide the container frame. But now we need this close button to be able to be clicked. And we need to make another script under this frame find game. And this needs to be a regular local script because it's going to handle UI. So we have this module script. We need a local script. And this will be the frame find game. Normally I call these like GUI managers, but I'm just going to call it manager. So frame find game manager. And this needs to require that module script so that it gets instantiated that first time. So we can do that by saying local behavior equals require, and this can be script.parent.frame find game behavior. And so that'll require that behavior, and now we can do things like opening and closing and updating and changing and all that stuff, anything we define in there. But the benefit of doing it in a module script is we can just require it in other frames. Like let's say when we have like the waiting for players frame, we can just require this module script, and we don't have to grab more references to the different UI components. The module script does it all for us, and all we got to do is call certain functions. So it's excellent. But for now, we could just go ahead and go back to the behavior, which is that module script, and we can go ahead and assign a mouse button one click action on this close button. And we can do that simply by saying close button dot mouse button one click. And then if you make like a colon and just with a capital C type connect, we can connect a function there. And all this function is going to do is set the container frame dot visible to true. So container frame dot visible equals true. And since we required this, it has been instantiated. So now if we run the game, it should work. But we need to hide the parent frame first. So we'll go back to the base plate, and we will click on this frame find game. Oh, no, we can leave it on, actually. Let's go back to this behavior. And let's change this mouse button one click from visible equals true to false, because this is a close button. So we'll say false. And so now when we run it, we should be able to click that X, and it should make the frame disappear. And that's all we're looking for. So when we press the X, the frame disappears. Perfect. So we can press stop. And now we see that this connection is there. Everything's good. And we have this module that's ready to be expanded on as needed. But for now, we have this frame find game manager. Let's see. Maybe I'm wondering if we should move it up one, and it should be kind of like your basic everything manager. I think we are going to do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this behavior here. Nope, not the behavior. Leave the module script where it is, but we're going to grab this frame find game manager, which is the local script, and we're going to move it up as a sibling to the container. So if you just drag it into the screen GUI, then you'll see we have screen GUI, and the children there are frame find game manager, which we're going to change the name. We have the container frame find game, and then we have the button find game. And now this game manager, we're going to rename to GUI manager. And the benefit here is now we can grab everybody's behaviors, and now we can kind of tie them all together. So that's excellent. So we will have an issue here, though, because script.parent, it needs to go into its child frame find game. So right after script.parent, let's change this to frame find game. And then that should be good there. So we have frame find game, and then that goes into the frame find game behavior. Perfect. So Battle Royale, it might come back eventually, but I don't know when, because it's really hard to get into the complicated games and explain the fundamentals of programming in Roblox. So that's why I wanted to jump to something much easier like the card game, which is still not crazy easy, but it's a great opportunity to go over some of the basics and get your hands dirty with Roblox so that you're really comfortable with programming, with the scripting in Lua. You can do, you can hit all your replicated, remote events and your remote functions and things like that. So maybe we'll get to Battle Royale, but I don't know when. And I know that's not what people want to hear, but I just think that game is too many steps ahead for now. So maybe we'll get to it in a while. But for now, I think I'm going to focus on the card game in Roblox. So we have this behavior in the GUI manager. We require that script, and we can test to make sure everything's fine by pressing play. And this should let us just, same as it was, we should be able to just close by pressing this X. It closes, everything still works. But now, what we can do is grab that find game button, right? So we can say local find game button equals script.parent. Whoops. Script.parent.button, and this is why I like to use like button first, right? I just type button and now I can see what my options are, and it's button find game, so that's perfect. And now we can connect to that mouse button one click, right? So we can say find game button dot mouse button one click. We press colon and connect, and this will be a function. And then all we have to do here is say behavior dot show frame, and we have like what would be called IntelliSense telling us what our options are. So show frame, boom. And so now if we press play, we can close it, and when we press find game, it'll open. So we have close and open. Close and open. So that's good. And so what we'll do, we will make an init method that all behaviors are going to have. So I guess we can just do it right away. We should init. For now, we won't. For now, all we'll do is make sure container frame. No, I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to move it down a little bit. So after this mouse button one click on the manager, on the behavior, which is the module script, under here, I'm going to do some initialization. And this is basically at game start. What are some things we want? Well, we definitely don't want, as soon as the player joins, this frame in their face, right? So what I'll do instead is, as soon as this frame, the game starts and the player has this UI, we're going to just make sure this container frame.visible equals false. And so we have this initialization that just makes sure it's not at the start of the game, make sure that frame is not visible, and now when we press play, it should be gone. And when I press find game, it should show up, and then when I press the X, it should go back away, right? So I'm in the game, I press find game, it's there, I press the X, it goes away. Everything works as expected so far. And so the next thing we need, so we have this GUI manager, which basically just, it's going to tie everything together, but for now, all we have is one frame. Yeah, for now, it only has one frame. So this will grow in size, but the benefit of separating things out into different scripts is when you have a problem, you don't have to go through 300 lines of code. You can go through, 20 or 30. So that's the benefit of separating responsibility. But we have more UI work to do. So we'll go back to baseplate, and we need this list. We need it to be a list for one. So what we can do is go to the create game list, and we can add a scroll view. We need a scroll. Oh, it's a scrolling frame. We want a scrolling frame. And so this frame, we want some space at the top for like a label, but then we want it to fill the rest of the available area. The top, deals with up and down, so vertical, so that's Y. So X is unaffected. So we can go to this frame, we can go to size X, and we want it to be scale 1 and offset 0. And that'll make it the entire width of its parent. But the next thing we want is its position Y. So position Y scale, let's let this take up like 80% of the available height. So we'll do 0.8. Nope, 0.2. 0.8 will be its height. So its position, Y scale, is 0.2. So 20% down. And then its size, Y scale, will be 0.8. And the offset will be 0. And so this will make this scrolling frame take up 80% of the height. It'll be down 20% of its parent's height. And that'll allow us to put a label up here to kind of give this frame a title. And now when we press like the mobile view, we'll see that everything still looks okay. Even if we press play in the mobile view, we should be okay still. So we press play in the mobile view, we land like we're playing on a phone, and we press find game. We do notice that find game is behind the jump button, and that's not good. So we're going to have to move it, maybe over to the left more, or maybe right under the player. But for now we have find game, and we have the X, and we can hit them both, and both work. So that's good. Let's go ahead and stop. We'll go back to desktop mode, and we're going to name the frame. So this will just be called, its parent has a name, so we don't need to. Scrolling frame is fine. But we do also want a label, so let's do a text label. This text label can go ahead and just take up the remaining space. But this will be called label title. And its position on X will be 0, Y will be 0, so both of those are fine. But its size on X, it's going to take up 100% of its parent, so that'll be a 1 on scale. And its offset will be 0. And then its Y scale, the remaining amount after that scrolling frame is just 20%. So we're going to do 0.2. And its offset is 0. And so that will take up the available space. And then we can do that text scaled thing again. So if we scroll all the way down, we can change it to text scaled, and we'll see that that looks more like a title. And we'll change label to like choose a game or something, right? Or available games. We'll call it available games. So available games. So that's our left panel. And now we basically want both of these things in the create game. No, we don't. We just want the title. So let's copy this. We can do that a couple ways. So we're going to click on label title, and we can right click and press duplicate. And then we can take that one and drag it up to this frame create game, and that'll put it there. And now we have that title with all of the same properties, right? Like, so its position, its scale, and stuff like that. But the only thing is we don't want it to be available games. We want it to be create a game. So we have available games. We have create a game. I know we're running a little short on time. The last thing I want to do before anything is get the other components in here real quick. Well, not quick, but as fast as reasonably possible. So that scrolling frame, let's go ahead and click it. And we want to add this thing called a UI list layout. So type UI and then look for list layout. The nice thing about this is it's going to put everything in a uniform, nice list, basically. And that's excellent. So now as we start adding things to this, like text button, it doesn't matter what we add. We'll see that as we add it, they just get stacked on top of each other. So we don't have to worry about things overlapping and stuff like that. You don't have to add those text buttons. We're going to delete them. I was just showing you what UI list layout does. It goes really well in a scrolling frame because as the content grows, your scroll frame grows and users can scroll up and down. It's great. It does all the work for you. So that UI list layout is good. The other thing we want is this frame create game. Add another label and a button, right? So let's do that. So we'll add a text label and we'll rename it label description. or label info. Let's do label info. Oops, I forgot to capitalize the I. So label info, and we also want a button. So that will be a text button. And this button will be button create. So I'm renaming it to button create. So now we have in the frame create game, we have button create, label title, which we copied from the other frame, and label info. Label info needs to move down about 20%. So its position, so down we know is vertical, and that is Y. So position Y scale. Let's do 0.2. Am I building this by myself? I am. So I guess we can take a quick pause. Let me open Roblox here. So I already made this game, actually. We're just recreating it. So I made this game. Let me see if I can find it. Let's create series. Nope. It's called Let's Play Cards. So this is sort of the game that I was showing in the intro video, right? Let's Play Cards. Oh, message retracted. Okay. I mean, I'll let it open, but no, I guess we don't need it. All right, so I'll just cancel that. All right, well, anyway, back to this. Sorry. Hold on, let me close out of here. This is the game we're making, though, by the way. So this is the lobby. What we're doing now is this find game. So when you click find game, it shows you, join a game, which we called available games, or create game, and it tells you about what the game is. Once you click create, it says, do you want to do Crazy Eights, which is the recent addition to the game, or Blitz, which is 31. And when you click create, it would show up on that list, which other players can actually see and join. So once they join, we'll see their name here. Then we can click start game, and it would go to the next place. So I'm going to press cancel here. I'll press cancel here, and I'm going to go ahead and leave so we can finish up this this little bit of a frame and work that we're doing. So we move the label down 20%. Just to recap a little bit because we got sidetracked. We're in frame create game. We have the button create, the label title, and the label info. So with label info selected, we're going to drop it down vertically. So that's Y. So Y scale 0.2. And we want its X scale to stay 0. And we'll go to the size, and we want its size X scale to be 1, 100% of the width of the parent, and its offset will be 0. We want its Y scale to be not 8 because we want room for a button. So we'll do something like 0.6. And it'll take up almost the entire space. And we want offset to be 0. That'll give a little more room for a button. And now this label is going to be kind of the description that you saw. This is where we're going to say like, click create a game so other players can do it. Oh, thanks, me. Hi. Oh yeah. Sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce your name, but I know you have been following the series, and I super appreciate it. I'm trying to read your comments. Hold on, really. Oh, thank you so much. I don't plan to give up. I really enjoy it as well. Um, Mainly when other people are excited about it, it actually makes me really happy. So I mean, I love viewers like you. Thanks so much. Yeah, Mihai. I don't. That's just how I could read it. I don't know how it's actually pronounced. If you could do like maybe a pronunciation in there, and I'll read it as you would say it's pronounced. I don't mean any disrespect. I'm super sorry. But back to the game real quick. So we have this label here, and that's what you saw in the game where it said like play, 2 to 7 players or whatever it is. And so we're going to move this button down into this little available area down here. And so we can do that by selecting button create, and we can move it down. So we have this as 0.2 and this is 0.6, and that tells me the available space left is 20% because 0.2 and 0.6 is 80. So we have 20% left, and the position here is 0.8. So what we can do is move our button down. It could be 0.8, but I'm thinking maybe a little more, right? So maybe we do 0.9. We don't want to do 0.9. Let's do 0.85. Yeah, that looks much better. And then, so that's the position-wise scale. And the next thing is size. So we have size X. Its scale is going to be 1. We just want it to be the full width. And its offset is going to be 0. And that'll be the full width of its parent. Now we have Y. So this one's a little bit different. To keep it about how it looks now, we would make its scale 0.1, right? I think 0.1. And then if we change offset to 0, yeah, it looks just about what it was already. So that button create, its position, X is 0, Y is 0.85, and then its size, X is 1 to fill the width of its parent, and its Y scale is 0.1, so 10% of its parent. And now if we look at this on mobile again, we just top right, click mobile, we'll see that everything still fits well. Some things are bold and darker, but as far as layout goes, this looks okay. So we'll head back to desktop. Oh, yeah. Actually, so I'm reading the comments. Sorry about the big delay and all the digressions. But so that 2 to 3 weeks, it was like a month, I'm pretty sure. Everything just got super crazy and busy, and I don't really know how to type into YouTube. Like, I see other people do it. But I did have Twitter, and I was pretty bad about posting what was going on. But yeah, everything's back to normal. So I'm able to get back into YouTube, and I've been super enjoying it. I started streaming. That's been fun. I have a problem. I'm still fighting with it. Every time I start working at a new project, the enthusiasm level is 200%. Then after 1 to 2 weeks, I lose my interest completely. Anyway, I respect you 3000. I will tell you, yeah, so the biggest thing about that is burnout. So you probably are very much like me. When you're super excited about something, that's all you do. It's all you think about. And you spend most of your free time doing it. And so what happens is, oh, you're not disturbing. No, it's okay. What happens is you spend so much of your free time doing it, that when you finally take that little break, this is kind of what happened on my month off, by the way. When you finally take that little break, it feels really good to relax, and it's really hard to get back into things. So I bet you whatever you had that enthusiasm for, if you would just try to jump the hurdle, get back into it, I bet you'd love it 200% as well. All I would recommend is that you do take your breaks, because mental breaks, very much needed. Otherwise you get burnt out, and then you'll just never do it again. Anyway, yeah, I'm super glad to see you're still sticking around. That's awesome. Thank you again. All right, so the last thing we need is this left side. So we have the button, we have the label. The left side is the available games, and this will be like that list with the icon, the game name, and things like that. I think we're actually going to save that for next time. So this time, let's go ahead and I don't really, until we know exactly what card game we're making, the label, yeah, let's do it. So label info, let's scroll down to text where it says label, and let's type some placeholder text just so we know what this is going to do. We're going to say here is where we will explain how to create a game. So this is like a placeholder, right? And let's change text scaled, because we really like text scaled. except that looks way too big. But as we add more words, it'll be better. And then button create, let's change it from just saying button to say create. And then we'll change it to text scaled as well. And I'm going to show you how to do padding and stuff. It's actually really easy, and that's what'll let this text shrink down and look better, or how it's supposed to. But for now, I think that's pretty good. And I think that's a good place to stop for today, actually. Yeah, I think we're going to call it a day right here. That gives me about an hour and 15 minutes of video to go through and cut down, and then I'll make I think we probably have 2 episodes here for the series. I'm on vacation right now, so my intention is to stream at least once every day, except Christmas Day. I won't be streaming that day, but once every day. I'm for like the next almost 2 weeks. I'm hoping to stream once every day. So if you had fun, that's great. I'd like to hear your feedback in the comments section. I love reading through your guys' comments. There's occasionally what you might call a bad comment. I don't think they're bad. I think they're great feedback. If there's something that happens, you're like, oh, this guy goes way too fast, definitely put that in the comments section, because it helps me for my future streams. So definitely like, comment, subscribe. Definitely comment though. That really helps me get better. And then the better I get, the better I can do for you. And that's my goal. So thanks for joining, everyone. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did as well. You do the same. And sorry, I was reading comments. I know that sounded like it was going in the same sentence, but I was reading comments. There was a thanks so much for tonight. Enjoy your vacation and keep safe from COVID. And I'm saying you do the same. If you have some time off coming up, enjoy it, but definitely stay safe from COVID. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.